Well, folks, the video for August 27th, 2017 is with Aristo, as you see, and we've come up with a title, Don't Give Up, and that's good news. And Aristo, please take it away.
Well, it's a kind of, thank you, Ron, first of all, and thank you, all of you who are here and have taken time out of your day to listen to my rant. I will try to make it as unranting as possible, and unfortunately, I don't have the 10 easy steps not to give up, or, here's what the authorities say about not giving up. And
I don't care what the authorities say about anything.
Exactly, and who are the authorities? What does that even mean? Author means creator, so they are the creators. So we are what? Their thing that they create or draw upon, our canvas. So it is a kind of slave reference, in my opinion, but not necessarily. I mean, it could be that way.
I think of as not creators, but controllers.
Exactly, but nobody likes to call themselves that, and unless you are really, really submissive. And so they like to imply that they have a reason for controlling you, and that's because they have absolute authority or authorization, a creative license, basically. Something has given them the power to be able to manipulate, create, and alter your copyright, as it were. So you are a thing, you are a corpse. And what does that have to do with our title? See, it goes back to all of these things that are popularized now, because now the alternative media isn't attacked. Note this, it's not attacked per se in a frontal manner. The alternative media or the alternative way of thinking is not persecuted by the establishment in a forward, obvious manner. Instead,
some of it is.
Well, you see, I knew you were going to say that, and I knew people are going to think that. So let's just go with the train of thought and see what I'm trying to say here.
Okay.
And what I'm trying to say is, instead, you have a demonization occurring that takes a portion of the population that is also manipulated to feel good when they demonize this target, this alternative media. And then so those who refuse to feel good, to change their views, to go with the flow, because usually you see, you have a whole unharnessed area of the population. You have those people who don't give a shit, on the one hand, unless they're motivated to give a shit, and the only way to motivate them is if you have the resources to do so. And that is to either give them material compensation or emotional, mental compensation, stroke their egos, So if somebody basically feels part of a group, that it's okay and great and we're all together here, because, society, we're cut off, we're kind of lonely, most people, or in tiny groups or families or whatever. So if you take people who kind of feel lonely and are kind of fringe, and all of a sudden you give them the opportunity to be part of something, like a political party or an ideology or a religion or whatever, to be part of something. And so they don't have to face their individuality that they really don't like all that much, so they can just blend in with the mob. Then they will be motivated, and then you might even offer kind of clandestine incentives, saying, okay, you want to do a YouTube video, you want to post, you want to do this, well, the search engine is looking for this, that, and the other. And, avoid these topics, go for these topics. And you will be positively reinforced if you do this, and negatively reinforced if you do that. So you have the hardcore so-called alternative types that are now politicized. Whatever my political beliefs are, if I advocate what the alternative media says, and of course the alternative media itself is, I would say, 80% sold out. So what they do now is affirm the narrative of polarization. You have the left and the right, and because the right was conservative and basically wanting to go to the old ways, you can't just call it the right, you have to call it the alternative right, whatever that and then now the alternative right is calling the left the alternative left. And what left? What, communists? What kind of left? I don't understand. You see, what I do see is that there is somebody has their hand on the contrast button on the, shall we say, the screen of society, or especially United States or Western world society, there's a contrast and there's a brightness. And, you know, they can dim collective perception. They can increase the brightness through the media collective perception. So the contrast is increasing. And you know what happens? You know, if you have a contrast button or dial on your television set or wherever, you know, if you increase it, then eventually you won't be able to see anything but just a bunch of incoherent lines or blurry or shapes moving around. And if you have these shapes fighting each other, it's just, they're not even people anymore. Okay, it's not even human beings, it's just blobs, it's just checkerboard pieces. So we are being turned into checkerboard pieces because it's easier to do things in a normalized that way. And this is why I say don't give up, because that sounds pretty hopeless, because somebody goes, if they do this, we're doomed. If they do that, we're doomed. If they do the other, we're doomed. Well, you know, if you put yourself a doom limit and draw a line somewhere, then eventually you are claiming you know so much about yourself that you know exactly what you cannot take. And I'm not talking about what the authorities tell you you cannot take. 5G, oh, we're fucked. How do you know? Has 5G?
Well, you know, I watched some videos, Aristo, and I'm sure you've seen them too, where people that try to come across as being an alternative media thing, and they paint a picture of hopelessness. So don't give up is a very important message at a time when the message of hopelessness is being propagated by certain individuals, whether honestly or dishonestly. It's still being propagated.
Well, I'm going to be controversial at this moment, at least where you're concerned. And I'm going to say messages of hopelessness are good if in the proper context. Call it medicine, okay? Because hopium is bad. So we've been overdosed on hopium. And I'm not talking about everybody. I'm talking about the types who have a certain intuitive sensitivity, especially in alternative thinkers that are spiritually based, shall we say. And because they're very sensitive, the only way to keep them hooked, because they will reject the message, you know, and go and maybe, heaven forbid, start thinking for themselves if the message is too harsh. So they always try to sugarcoat it. You have the sugarcoaters, you have the hopelessers, you have the fear-mongers, and you have the sugarcoaters.
Yeah, I agree. Both extremes are dangerous.
They're very, very dangerous. Now, the thing is, we all have weaknesses for one or another extreme. Some people get off on hopelessness. Yeah, Armageddon, man. You know, maybe they think they're the ones that are going to make it. Yeah, I'm a born-again, who knows, faithful religious type, and my God is going to save me when all of you folks die. So
well, that's one of the messages I keep seeing.
Yeah. Their narratives, you know, remember 10 years ago, let's go back 10 years to the alternative media, what they used to say. 5 years ago, even 7 years ago, you know, basically, you could basically take a notebook and jot down the basic things the alternative media would say, even the ones that are so-called sold out, like Alex Jones or whatever. Jot it down and then shut it off forever, because you're not going to hear anything new after that. You're going to hear about events and all of this, and you know, but you won't hear new principles. You won't hear new advice. You won't hear new suggestions about what to do. There is one recommended by me, at least. He's a blogger, and he's been on various alternative, I think, outlets. But he's got basically, his material is written, and it's John Rappaport. And
oh yeah, I've read a lot of his stuff.
Exactly, and he's pretty standard. He's very logical. I highly recommend what he writes. I post it on my Facebook page on occasion myself. You know, I restricted my what I share, you know, what I post, because I just look at some things and say, look, there's 5 messages here that I just want to, maybe ad nauseum, maybe I'm going to repeat myself, and of course I do, and on your channel as well. You know, and these 5
well, I too get from various sources, and they don't always agree.
Exactly. So I've narrowed my own focus on what I consider, well, look, everything's important. All of your issues are important. Everybody that's griping about anything, you know, but there are things that if you're dead, how are you going to do this? You know, I mean, you're talking about carbon taxes because global warming and all of this, or you're talking about there is no global warming, let the market just go free, or you're talking about making people shut up if they have an opinion, even if you don't like it, you know, or you're talking about regulating hate when the biggest hate in the world is hatred against humanity and this planet that's poisoning it, and nobody seems to be addressing that because it's too big. You know, they address one corporation that they think is run amok, or one individual that they think is run amok, like you talked about Soros. And I'm saying, yeah, take down Soros. There's going to be 50 Soroses. There's new generations of these people. There's their children, there's their grandchildren, they're groomed. You talked about it yourself. You said, well, they take them through rituals and they torture them, or you know, either way, maybe they indoctrinate them. You can kill the king, but there's a whole bunch of princes, there's, you know, down the line, in every single avenue. And if you kill them, there's bastard sons, there's nobles, there's a whole, you know, hierarchy that it's the ideology that has to go away, and it's not going to go away. You know, psychopathy is conditioned. That's why it's like a spiritual disease, because it goes beyond the individual embodiments of it, the individual expressors. You can do away with the so-called evil people. This is why, but in all of this, there is a don't give up. Of course there's a don't give up. Because if you set your limit that says, oh, if this happens, well, it's going to happen eventually. Or they're going to say it happens. Maybe it won't happen. But they'll say it happens. They'll say it's happening. And if they say it's happening, then you'll be faced with your limit constantly and chip, chip like a broken record. And that limit is going to chip away at you. Your very, very limit, you know, is going to attack you. And it's going to be a weapon in the hands of those that want to eliminate you. Now, there's also another thing. We are targets of experimentation. Why? First, because the psychopath doesn't know what a real human being is, says, or does. They have no knowledge. They cannot say, oh, I would do that in that person's place. They need to observe from the outside. And second, because these are control freaks. And third, because we are unpredictable. We are an unpredictable dynamic, an unpredictable beingness. We don't even know our own potential, aside from the fact of, you know, what would I do in any given situation. No matter how much self-knowledge you have, you still don't know your full potential. You say you do, or scientists have done this. Whoever says that is really just, you know, come on, man, you know, really. Then you're just showing that you're conditioned, you know. So if you ever wonder what a programmed person is like, look in the mirror. I mean, we're all programmed to some degree, and like insanity, programming is, well, if you think you're programmed, you're probably not. So it's one of those things where it doesn't matter if you are or you're not on a personal level. You just do your best, and you focus critically on evaluating what your best is without slamming yourself, because you cannot be your own enemy. You cannot afford that. So we get hopium on the one hand, you know, because this isn't just about don't give up. This is about, you know, if I was more organized maybe, and if I wanted to really get views, you know, and make my head better resources, I would say 10 steps how not to give up, you know. And one step is to know your spectrum of perception, shall we say, in certain more than one context. So here's one context: terrorization or hopelessness and hopium. Okay, not hope. Hope is in the middle. Real hope is not a guarantee. See, if you're looking for guarantees, you're not looking for hope. You're looking for hopium. Hope is uncertain. It just gives you a possibility or a probability of success. It gives you an open avenue that says, look, man, you know, there's a good chance that you're going to succeed if you don't give up. If you give up, you're guaranteed to fail. That's for give up. It's going to happen. We're screwed. So, you know, and the people who say we're screwed, it's really funny because they say, well, we're here to inform you that you're screwed. So just so you know. Well, what's the point? Well, so what? So you just, you know, oh, let me get comfortable bending over and kissing my ass goodbye? Is this why you're informing me? Or is there something I can do about it? You know, because if there is something I can do about it, at least remind me that maybe there's something that I can do about it. Sometimes they do say, oh, you know, there's always hope, you know, as if they're making fun of you. You know, it's like, come on, you know, you're one of those. You're on the extreme, you know, edge of the cliff side. You're on the extreme hopeless side of the spectrum of perception and evaluation. So maybe let's call it the spectrum of evaluation. And then you have hopium, which says, oh, it's all good. It's all good. It's so good that, you know, why is it good? It doesn't matter. We're in the fifth dimension. It's all good. You know, it's cool. Don't worry about it. I don't know how it's good, but it's good. You know, so don't say anything negative, which basically means keep the dial on full tilt on the hopium side.
Well, you heard me talk about having to leave a group because I was bringing up 3D problems.
Exactly.
And they wanted to remain in 5D.
Exactly. You know,
this is a good friend, actually. Yeah. And a good friend.
Well, in some videos and sometimes, you know, and even in writings, I would myself defend the idea of 5D as legitimate. But, you know, you can't just call 5D everything, you know, that you just some nebula. Look, man, don't just say 5D and assume everybody knows what you're talking about. Call it something else that's more on the lines of grounded thinking, because, you know, you have a bunch of people talking metaphysically about 5 dimensions, and I think some of them think it's somewhere elsewhere, on some other planet or universe or whatever, or it's another, some people think it's a frame of mind, which it could be, but what kind of frame of mind? Is this the denial frame of mind, where you're not recognizing what's going on? Or is this a frame of mind of inspiration, where you're seeing things from a higher level? That's different. That's what it's supposed to be, actually, in my honest opinion. It's a kind of enlightenment dynamic where you're open to possibilities. So you're not on the hopium side. True 5D is in the middle of the spectrum where there is hope, because it's one of the infinite possibilities and options that you have. Now, the thing is, people are very much into these days, like I said, into quantifying the bullet points of solutions or advice or what they can do. Why? Because people are now used to taking orders. They're very, very used to being told by authorities what is right, what is wrong, what to do, where to go, you know, and why. So that again, and then they are also used to being offended if anybody challenges their programming. See, that's another program, to be extremely offended, because bullying has set that in place, of course, and you can't blame people. You see, you can't really blame.
No, I mean, that's what I get when I talk with a minister who has the church right adjacent to the building where I live. I mean, he just is a very, very narrow perspective on what truth is, and many religious people are that way. I mean, he's not the only one. He's just one that I've had communication with since I moved into the apartments where I'm living now.
Well, this is another expression of a spectrum of evaluation. So you have these people that have solutions for whatever they say is the ultimate, you know, bitcher and the griper and the whiner on one end of the spectrum, and then the don't judge anything, don't judge, you know, just keep surrender to the situation, you know, open up, forgive, and you know, basically just stay a zombie and be mindless, no ego, you know. And
yeah, well, this particular one, we're going to be leaving the earth anyway and going to heaven, so it doesn't make any difference what happens here.
Yeah, okay, that's the medieval mindset. That's what all the churches would tell people, that, you know, hey, I'm screwing you, you're being tortured and stripped and vampired, and I don't know.
But you're going to heaven.
You're going to go to heaven, so let's go for a good cause. You know, it's like, you know, you're being screwed for a good cause. And, you know, come on, man, you know, well, why don't they let people off in court for that, with that excuse? Hey, man, it was all for a good cause. You know, pedophiles, it was for a good cause. All the kids went to heaven, man, you know, so they're innocent souls, and I'm the one that brought them there, so you should reward me for my trouble. You know, and a lot of these psychopathic types actually have a kind of delusional sense that they are, you know, I am a harbinger of the purpose of some holy purpose, or even if it's their own, even if it's some survival of the fittest, is a religion. You know, it's a sort of a kind of ideology. And so, of course, where you define yourself as the fittest. Again, what does this have to do with don't give up? You know, again, don't give up is negative. So what's the positive of don't give up? Stay the course? Well, obviously not. Because staying the course means where entropy is going to take us downhill, because most of us are brainwashed. It's basically, you know what to do. You know, that is the positive. You know what to do, even if you think you don't. Deep down, there's a part of each of you out there who knows what to do. You may not be doing it, but it is your ability to respond that can help you step up. So don't give up is negative. The positive would be keep stepping up. Step up more. Go forward, you know, forward in the sense of even if you have to go backward, treat it as a forward. You're not backtracking. You're not leaving ground to go where you were and losing something. You are exploring the past in a new way. There is no such thing as wasted time when you are aware, when you step up. So there is absolutely no reason to give up because you're still alive. It's like killing yourself because you're going to die someday. You know, that's ridiculous. You know, just whatever the situation is, you know, step up more. Maybe you're bored. You know, maybe life is meaningless to you. Maybe you're alone. Maybe nobody likes you. Step up, you know, step up to evaluate your own situation without criticizing yourself. Look at your spectrum of evaluation. Don't throw it out. It's a divine gift, you know. You run, you know, talk about what God, why did he come in? Well, we're given a set of resources, and then we're let loose with free will to do with them as we can. And we are in dire straits right now because the situation has hit crisis, crucifixion, cross, X marks the spot, the eye of the needle. The eye of the needle is a narrowing of options, seemingly speaking, in order to increase focus. And no, this is not done purposely because, oh, we have to do this, we have to learn. Learn for what? You know, that suffering sucks. That's not a lesson, that's masochism. You know, no, we are here to step up. We are here to wake up, to harness our options, because that's what creator beings do. You cannot create, you cannot be happy, you cannot be fulfilled if you're just a passive lump, expecting some higher power to just feed you with an open mouth. It gets boring. And that's fine for a couple of thousand years or whatever, but you know, we're talking an eternity of that. You know, you're going to become, maybe that's what turned angels into demons. Too much of, you know, too much passive obedience, paradise. Of course, some of them are going to get pissed off, you know, if they have an ounce of free will. The Bible basically tells us of a revolt, or I don't think the Bible even says that, but the religion does. But there's a revolt of angels and all of this, and well, the ones that revolted were the ones that accidentally had a little spark of free will. Of course they're going to revolt under those conditions. Anybody would. That's why the fruit of the tree of knowledge made human beings upstarts. They stopped being obedient. They're going to be as gods because gods have free will. But free will comes at a price, and that price is responsibility. Okay, you can write that down, and we'll put it in the blurb. Responsibility, or the ability to respond. The ability to respond correctly is learned. So nobody expects everybody to respond correctly at first, or even at second, or even that's what we learn. Correctly means in a healthy, meaningful fashion that is intended by the deepest part of you, the divine part of you. So the divine will is basically right in here. And so taking that out is basically your true will. So it's really what you want. And one of the con jobs is to take what you want and convince you is that you don't really want it. That's called gaslighting. Gaslighting is when somebody convinces you that what you know is true and perceive to be true is false. Basically that you're crazy. You are unable to evaluate. And if you're unable to evaluate, then everything I'm saying goes out the window and you give up, because automatically somebody else is telling you what to do. So another thing, let's look at our addictions. Let's look at, there's another spectrum here. Maybe I should title this different, you know, the spectra of evaluation, but then nobody would see the video. It'd be too abstract. So don't give up is a cool thing. So you have this spectrum of evaluation of, you know, I forgot what I was going to say.
Addictions.
Exactly. You have the spectrum on the other hand where you have the addicted personality that is grasping because they don't want to let go. And then you have the personality that is so afraid of addictions that and wants to be free that they reject everything. And so the escapist personality, the extreme denier of everything. And in the middle, it can go either way, because here you can have your picking everything you choose is a program, or everything you choose is the correct response. So we're talking about the middle of the road here is correct, healthy, meaningful, liberated response. We're not talking about telling you what to choose, okay? Right and wrong. That's the thing. Nobody can tell you right, or should be able to tell you right and wrong. We're afraid of that. And because there are people who are blatantly unethical that are trying to tell us, yeah, you know, there is no right and wrong, so I can do whatever you want. That's the trick.
Yeah.
Because,
and then there are religions that are pushing that.
Exactly. Because you see, you cannot have a dictator in a nice white robe without a demon to back them up that is seemingly against them. You cannot have manipulative so-called good without nasty evil, the old left hand and the right hand trick.
Yeah, so, it's all relative.
Well, again, that's what they say, but basically it's there are two sides. You're being played through the right and the left. They belong to the same body, okay? The same manipulative psychopath has two hands, and they're screwing you. You turn to slam. It's like when in the yard, the schoolyard, the little kid has a ball. The bully takes the ball, and then he throws it to his friend. Then you try to get it from the friend, and he throws it to the other guy. You know, so you can't get it. And that's frustrating as hell. So what do? You just stop at one point, say, forget it. You know, when you throw it back to this guy, I'm going to get the ball, but you never do. They just keep it over there. So if you side with the good, so-called, you're going to be constantly confronted by the so-called evil. If you side with the evil, you're going to be constantly confronted by the so-called good. So the point is, you have to punch out all the bastards all in the circle, somehow incapacitate them. And the only way to do that is to realize that there is no ball. Let's go Zen. I'm going to go Zen on you. They don't have your ball. They're playing with you. They're messing with you. You have to figure out what is your value, the true value, the deep value. They can't take it away from you. They cannot. You have to give it up. Yeah, they can take your life and all of this, but look, man, they would have done so. You know, we're talking about approaching the problem in a way that those who are strategizing our demise cannot comprehend. That's the only solutions you're going to get. So if you're dealing with a media that's controlled by the system and trying to find solutions there, it ain't going to work. You're going to find something. You're going to find elements, and you're going to have to piece those elements together. That's the best that can happen, in my honest opinion. Because I heard a quote in a, some kind of, kids show the other day. I forget what it was, but it was like, a good strategist will pave the way to meet those conditions that favor victory. They will not go for victory directly. They will change the playing field to conditions that favor victory. Keep that in mind, please. Because a good strategy is going to toxify the earth. If they want to control the planet, they're going to create toxins. They're going to make you financially, they're going to create money. So you are dependent on that medium to sustain yourself. Then they're going to control the money, and then they're going to control what you get with the money. So you have to eat poison if you don't have enough money. So you poison yourself. Then they're going to make sure that even if you find a way around that, they're going to bombard you with another poison. They're going to use electromagnetic poisons. Then they're going to use mental poisons. They're part of the same system. So if they just toxify everything, they're going to be poisoned too. So they have to poison 10 things. They have to have 10 vectors of poisoning, and you have to at least be inundated by 5 to submit, or so they think. You know, it could be 5, it could be 7. You will be incapacitated at 5 to some degree, but you can still function. So don't give up, even on their definition. But they're probably inundated by 3 because they have the knowledge and the means, and some people can handle, are inundated by 5, 6, and 7, some by 2, 4, and 3, some by, so that way you even keep your allies on their toes, okay? You don't just poison people with chemtrails and give your allies the antidote. Your allies might betray you. We're talking psychopaths. The thing is, a psychopath cannot get in the head of an empathic person who is able to respond. they can get in the head of a passive, mushy, empathic person, you know, who has no backbone, who loves everybody but doesn't love themselves and is just out to feel passively good. So the whole environment has to be nice and good so they feel good instead of generating the feeling from within, balance with the environment. Because if you just generate it and don't give a fuck, then you're selfish. So so it's still not, healthy. That balance point, that's what we're talking about here. The spectrum of evaluating reality or perceiving reality, inside, outside. Where's the middle of that, Bruce Lipton talks about consciousness, and he says the origin of consciousness is actually the cell membrane. In an embodied biological entity, the cell membrane is where consciousness is. It's not in the nucleus, because the cell membrane is the midpoint between the interior, what's going on, and the environment. That's what's getting all the traffic. That's where all the information goes through. That's where all the interactions happen. And so these loops of experience are where consciousness, well, everything is, the field is conscious, of course, or sentient, or probably it can awaken. But the one that's stimulated into awakening is the cell membrane. So figure it out this way. This is important, If you stand at the midpoint of the extremes of your experience, you will be more conscious. You will be more awake. You will be more aware, and that will be a symptom that you are at the midpoint. So if you want to know, how do you know? See, I should have a notebook and say, okay, that's actually the 7th easy step on how to, not to give up and stuff. So yes, I am mentioning things here, but I'm talking off the top of my head, which is not really pulling, farts out of the air or whatever you want to call it. This isn't arbitrary. These are things in my experience, but, categorizing it is too structured. You have to be flexible. It has to be fluid, because every time you become too structured, then those who cannot survive without structure, because they have no, how shall we say, spiritual virility, an ability to be flexible because their flow of being is strong enough to be flexible, How much time do we have?
We're 32 minutes now, just passed.
Okay, I wanted to, of course this can go on and on as usual, but I wanted to mention one thing. Heather Tucci Giraffe mentioned to forgive the criminals, to forgive the psychopaths. Okay, amnesty, she said, basically part of that is, well, if somebody does you harm on a massive scale and does planet harm, you feel enraged toward them, right? You feel a natural hostility. Now, there's two things. Hatred, raw hatred, is destructive and has no redeeming value. However, you cannot repress it. You cannot deny it. You need to slowly work through and let it go. It is not who you are. Rage is not the same as hatred. Hatred is irrespective of emotion. Hatred just hurts every emotion. And you want to get rid of it so much that you have to destroy the object, in a blind manner, so much that it takes away your consciousness, it takes away your awareness, or it takes away your connection with everything, and you become completely driven in that way. So it's a controlling mechanism, whether somebody is using it against you or whether it's endogenous. Trauma has been used as a controlling mechanism to create this hatred, because with hatred, you cannot be swayed from where you are pointed. It's point and shoot with hatred. You can manipulate somebody very easily that way. So in this case, denying that and not working through it is not being able to respond. Rage, on the other hand, is different. Rage is your desire to be free. So it's passionate, and you don't have to worry about, oh, you're being judgmental, or, oh, you're going to hurt somebody with the rage. Well, who cares, man? At that point, rage is rage. You have to be natural with it. If your rage has hatred inside of it, then you will hurt somebody. But you have to trust yourself that this is raw emotion. Scream it, do whatever you want with it, Do whatever you want in an inoffensive way so society doesn't respond against you. Not because the energy is going to go out and it's going to step on toes. The energy itself is going to step on toes. If you are enraged, you don't have to go on Facebook and bitch at people. You don't have to make a public display about it. But
unless you're Alex Jones.
Well, that's not even rage. That's greed. That's different. That's another scenario, So, but the thing is, you need to go need, I say. There is a need that one who has rage to, and then eventually you can see the deeper causality. You can see that, look, man, these are psychopaths. They're sick people. So what? You know, but it doesn't matter. My rage needs to go, and my rage will teach me. Eventually, my rage may simmer down and turn into fear. So I'm afraid. Oh, fear is an illusion. Don't be afraid. No, don't buy into the narrative that is manipulating the fear. That's different. You know, there's a narrative behind the fear. So what you want to do, what will be helpful in my honest opinion, is to feel it's all energy. And energy is subjective, it's felt, it's you. Master your energy, claim your energy, and don't give up, okay? That's how you step up. That is, if I had the 10 easy steps, it'd be number 10. You know, but
okay.
That's it.
Yeah, claim your energy is the last note that I wrote. And I've got a lot of notes, so it's going to be quite a blur, but I've got to try to create.
Well, we'll try to condense it. You know, you noted the steps, and we can't say the steps in the blurb. Obviously, nobody's going to watch the video then. You know, but we'll give some hints and all of that. So you know, you send it to me as usual. I'll work it out, and because that's how we do it now. And you know, we'll take it from there. So this has been an interesting video. I think it was constructive. I think it's one of the better ones. And I hope people have taken time to, you know, listen to it. So thank you very much once again for putting up with the rant, and namaste. And it doesn't mean me Satan, you know, that's the most ridiculous thing. Was that on your thing that somebody actually namaste is an anagram for me Satan or something like that?
Yeah, people come out with such insane stuff.
You know, well, that's fine, you know. That's fine. So what? You know, the Satanists will tell.
But whatever the life is in me, it recognizes the life in you.
Yeah. Anyways, it's a greeting. So.
All right. Thanks. Bye.